And welcome back. Today we are going to talk about a project where we are going to be using a product called Contrasto. And what Contrasto is, it is a black sheet of plastic that has a white vinyl over the top of it. And the way this works is you draw your design out onto the white of the page. And then you take an X-Acto and you cut away through the white vinyl, and then you take that little bit and you pick it up and it reveals the black that is underneath it. So what we're dealing with is a design that is entirely black and white. There is no shading or anything of that nature. So what we're doing is we're coming up with a design, whether it be a design where you have things overlapping like this one here or this here, and then where the things overlap the colors flip, or just a straight up design like this kind of zebra print here where it works all the way across. Okay, so we get these out of the way. And so this is another one here where the flames overlap each other, where the layers overlap, and then where they cross, the color flips from white to black. And here's another one that does that, where there's some lines that run through the background here, and then the squares overlap. So wherever the squares overlap is where the color flips. So it goes from a white shape to a black shape to that back to the white. And then here's kind of a Starry Night, Nightmare Before Christmas-esque swirlies. And then there's another swirl that runs over the top of them. So wherever anything overlaps is where the color is going to flip and it's going to change. So what we're gonna do is, just like usual, we're gonna do our thumbnails here. I've got two different ones. I've got one that's more of a geometric design here, and then I've got one that's kind of a Ghost Rider, flaming skull looking design here. And ultimately these can change a little bit from your thumbnails. So what I did is I chose the Ghost Rider skull here and drew it out big. The paper that we're working with, a full-size sheet is 8 by 10. A half-size sheet is going to be 4 by 5. So what we're working with today is an 8 by 10. So I've got that drawn out in the way that I did it, which didn't really work out the best, is I just drew really heavy and then transferred it over to that. Didn't work out quite the best, so I would say probably don't do that. The big problem with working with Contrasto is when you draw on it, if you make a mistake, it does not erase very well on top of this white vinyl. So if you do draw over the top of it, you need to make sure that you are drawing very, very lightly and that you're placing your things where they need to go. So I've got the skull kind of laid out here. My transfer of the flames up top didn't really work, so I'm just gonna kind of freehand that when I get to that point. But with this, because the skull itself is going to be white and I'm going to have kind of a little bit of an outline around it, but these shapes that are in here are going to stay black. So I'm using an X-Acto. You can use a straight razor or razor blade, but something needs to be sharp, and you're going to push just a little bit and hold it like a pencil. Use your other hand to kind of turn the page, and then once you get it cut, you can take the tip of the razor and pull out what it is that you're working with. And then just set that aside and just work your way through. And I would say you want to try to make your cuts as smooth and as long as possible. If you've got things like this to where you've got to come to a point, I would start here and work my way out. With this, it's a design that doesn't necessarily have to be super precise. So if I'm off a little bit, it's not a huge deal. If you have something like this where it's very precise, you need to make sure that you get that corner cut nice and clean, because if you've got that corner off a little bit, it's gonna show. And I know it can be kind of tricky sometimes to see what you're working with, but sometimes once it starts to lift up, we don't have it cut all the way. You might have to go back in, take that cut, make it just a little bit longer, so that way it cleans up. And looks like I missed one here. All right. So then there's the start of it, and you can just kind of work your way through, keep plugging away. And then I'll have a video or a photo of this at the end of it to show the completed version. But it's simply a matter of just working your way through. Take your time. Don't rush it, because when you start to rush things, especially with this material, you will make mistakes. All right. Good luck.